I believe this is my first video of 2024. I'm pretty sure the last one that I did was my wrap-up video. So I want to say this is the first one. I can't remember. All I know is that I'm quite out of practice and I have needed a bigger break than I had anticipated originally, but nevertheless I wanted to get back into things, and I thought that this would be a good way to start. Here's hoping, because I actually have another video that I have been planning to record for like 3 months now. Hello Kelly, hello. It is lovely to see a friendly face. How are you doing? I just added your I can't remember what you'd called it, but I think it's got your birthday gifties and stuff in. I just added that to my to watch list. I have been feeling absolutely dreadful. I'm not going to bore everyone with the details, but there's been a lot of reasons I haven't been around. Some unexpected stuff come out of the end of the year as well. And honestly, being as I can't rewind time and make it different, which is very much my unrealistic wish, I've just been taking some time out to process private life shit. Hello 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗃. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. I love those pink wavy emojis. They're amazing. Hey Ingrid, welcome. You got here and at the very beginning. We are going to look at stuff, people, so don't worry. But I will give a brief shout out just because it's the thing that I've been doing this morning, and my brain's my short-term memory recall's quite tragic at the moment. But I know that I added 𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗃's video to my wish list, and also I have been binging, although I didn't have as many videos as I'd hoped, but I've been binging tarot readings from 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃, which is 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃. If you don't know 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃, you should really check her channel out. I have been catching up on videos that I'd missed of 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃's as well this morning, and that was good stuff. Well, this afternoon, I had a client, and I have a really bad flare-up of my chronic migraines in particular. So after my client and cleaning the kitchen, I haven't achieved much. But the reason that I am coming to you with a live is because, firstly, it's a nice, easy way to get back into things, and I'm hoping the live quality should be pretty solid throughout. But also, usually when I declutter, which don't worry, I'm not getting into the topics because I have discussed the topics in many places and spaces over the years. And what I mean by the topics is like how many decks you own and all of the things that come in and around that. But my relationship with owning things and them coming in and going out, I've been really fortunate in that it's always been very fluid and natural for me in particular. And I always call it spring cleaning, but I do it like 4 times a year as well, just naturally, like every quarter. It's just something that's innately kind of been inbuilt in me over time. So normally this process is just a very slow transition throughout the year. And in terms of what you guys will be interested in terms of like decks and tarot books and anything like that, things sort of teeter-totter out during the year in a gentle flow, and that's just how it's always been. But I hadn't done much towards the end of the year, and I have a few question mark decks as well, and I know that genuinely interests people, so I thought I would just literally talk out loud and share my mind vomit with you as I go through these decks. And I think I'm pretty certain that quite a few of them are going to go, and this possibly isn't everything, but I just grabbed a pile, was looking at them and thought, why do this alone when I could do it with other people? Yes, mind vomit. That's exactly it. So I thought I would do it with people, and you can mind vomit with me. The thing that I will say right off the bat, because I know some people watch these videos with absolute eager anticipation at people getting rid of things and perhaps them having the opportunity to have them. I'm in the UK, and honestly, especially since Brexit, sending things to everywhere else in the way that I want to send them, where they are tracked and I know that they get there, and if they don't, that I can give you your money back, but I will also get my money back from them going missing. It's expensive. So whatever decks that I decide not to keep, and I am in total, you know, commitment to that, I would suggest that only UK people get excited, because I genuinely don't trade, sell or gift outside of the UK just for those reasons. It's just, and for a bunch of these, they're mass market, so it's not even worth it. And there's a few people that I send packages to and stuff, so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I don't think that many of these are going to surprise people. I think it might more surprise you that I own them or still own them, but we'll see. We shall see. I have around 90 decks in my collection, and I'm not very attached to numbers, but I do like to keep it into a certain space. So yeah. Ingrid's suddenly glad to be in the UK. Let's start with a deck that I think will surprise people, and also see if I've set my lighting up correctly, which is the Halloween Oracle. I've gone in for like, I prepared beforehand and went in really close, because one of the main complaints that I get, especially on live replays, is that it's too far away from the screen. So another complaint I get, which is not going to change, but it is, I will just share it because I find it interesting, is the fur as part of the background. But there's a lot of assumptions attached to this fur and what it means, and I don't go out and hunt down animals. I mean, if that's what you do, that's entirely up to you, but that's not what this fur represents. Also, if I didn't have this here, there would be a giant glare on this table. So it's, yeah, it's, ever since I started using this as part of the background, I've had just an uptake in complaints, and some people letting me know that they are unfollowing me because of it. So yeah, this is the Halloween Oracle. It is, and I am quite surprised to have it here, but then I'm not. So I will explain it as we go through as well. I just want to say hello to Marlena. Hello. Welcome your early morning. I hope that you have a nice, I'm going to say warm beverage with you. Maybe you want a cold one. So this is the Halloween Oracle. This one has been on your list since forever. Well, I would love to know what you think about it in the end, like after. Basically, what I will say is I have and continue to be very fond of this, which may then seem strange that it's here. I don't freaking use it. It has quite a bit of heavy competition in my, I did use it, I've used it lots, like I know this deck absolutely intimately, and I know that they reprinted it on the MAC cardstock, but actually with these, like, I want to say cheesier, old school-ish, it's not really old school, is it, but it's old enough for those of us who have been around for a while. I prefer this glossier cardstock on some of these oracles. I don't know, it doesn't bother me. It kind of, to me, it makes sense for what they are. I don't know if that, I can't explain it basically. And I have used it with my Halloween tarot, of course, and it's been absolutely grand. I've loved the way that it reads. I still really enjoy the artwork. I think that the book, for the kind of thematic oracle book that it is cute and fun. And it has a fair amount of information. In fact, I'm not going to read one, but, and of course I'm not even going to find the one that we're on, but I really like these for invisibility. the keyword's authenticity, and it says heart beating we sense but do not see. They touch, we chill, they come unseen. I freaking love those. It is the I say cute and I mean it in like quaint, enjoyable, fun, but still reads really well. Sorry, I knocked the camera. But I've owned it for such a long time, and I'm a bit of a weird fusspot when it comes to, I try not to keep really anything at all just based on nostalgia. I'm quite brutal, and I really am. And I probably own maybe 3 things ever from nostalgia, and also like all of my childhood things that I might have had more of an attachment to. Just history, I'm not going to go over it. I don't have any of them, and so that probably had that, and my relationship with material stuff over other things has kind of impacted that relationship. But I do have a few decks in my collection that my biological mother bought me when I was younger, when we were in contact, and I have like a perhaps more of a traditional like nostalgia relationship with those, and I don't really use them, but I own them, so I don't want to add to that. Does that make sense? This card, I will miss this card so much. It's so pretty. I really love it. It's so fun, and it's just great for the time of year. But you know what? I haven't used it for like 2 Halloweens on the trot. I haven't used it outside of Halloween, which I don't mind doing for my themed decks, because, you know, your girl is a Halloween all year girly. I think that the keywords are really fun. It just isn't getting used. And if you're curious about what its competition are, I don't know, good grammar. It's a great start. I'm looking back. It's Jasmine Beckett Griffith and Lucy Cavendish's decks, which are the Vampire Oracle and the Oracle of the Shapeshifters. Yep, completely different theme, I know. But in terms of when I'm using decks that give me the general vibe that I'm going for here, those 2 win out. And I'm getting to a point where I get like little space energetic, I don't want to say tingles because it makes it sound all magic-y and woo, and it's not like that, but I just get something ticking me internally, and it's not in that really hard and fast, I must get rid of everything, because whilst I have had compulsions like that over the past, I've managed to not fall into them, if that makes sense. And like I said, I keep my flow ticking over, but I've had that kind of it's time, some stuff needs to go, and I think that this is one of them, if I'm honest. I really do, and I love it, and I will miss being able to pick it up and look at it, but I don't think, and when I get rid of things, I don't miss them enough, you know. I've again been very fortunate with that, so I think that it's time for this one. Going through it, and we've gone through all of it now, it feels like it's ready to go and be with someone else, and I'm not a cheesy person, but that's kind of how I feel about these things, and it's how I was brought up as well. You know, we went for our stuff, and it was, if you're not using these toys, then someone else can have them at a charity shop, and that's kind of, you know, when you grow up with very little money and everything's a hand-me-down and you shop in charity shops, you're really thankful for those things being in there, and so it's like a nice, that's not where all of these are going. Some, like I said, some of them I'll just give to friends, perhaps one of the indie decks maybe I'll sell, I could use the money, but it's just in terms of like gifting things on or putting them into other people's spaces, I like the flow of that, if that makes sense. Spooky Babes Unite, yes. Could you take a photo of your favourite card before getting rid of it? That black cat is gorgeous. I could. In fact, that gives me a lovely idea. Thank you, Ingrid. I will take a photo of it on my phone and I will print one of those little stickers off on my Canon 𝗵𝘃 printer. And you can either get... Oh, I'll show you. I would have to find another miniature frame. But this is my miniature frame of 𝗬𝗎. And that's just a picture I printed off on the Canon 𝗵𝘃 to test it. So they actually are stickers as well, as most people know. I say most people know, I'm assuming, because I know quite a few people now in tarot land use those printers. But anyway, I got this teeny tiny little frame, and 𝗬𝗎 is on a portion of, well, I say she's on my altar, she's further down, but it's cute. Oh, I said that like Dorothy telling she'll miss the scarecrow most of all. Oh, don't, Marlena. I'm so hormonal at the moment. You will make me cry. I absolutely adore The Wizard of Oz. It was a big connecting thing for me and my granddad. So yeah. Oh. Interestingly enough, I am not much of a grave visitor in terms of people I actually know, and most of the people I have had relationships with or are technically family are buried all over the country and other places. So I tend to be one of those strange graveyard people who visits graves out of respect and enjoying the peace and the animals and all that comes with them, but not actually visiting graves of my known relatives. But I randomly visited my granddad's the other day, driving past from somewhere and feeling a really big urge to like be somewhere that felt safe and quiet and be alone and talk out loud. So that's what I did, funny enough. So it's just interesting you mentioned The Wizard of Oz, because I came home after and I was listening to one of the songs he used to sing me off of it. But anyway, Kelly, what do you think of the Halloween Oracle? Tell. I must know. But I think that's gonna, I'm pretty safe in saying that that's going in the gone pile. I won't make piles here because there's not enough room. It is cheesy, spooky fun, isn't it? It's cheesy, spooky fun. Let's talk about it later then. So what have we got next? We've got this one. I will definitely be gifting this one on because I was gifted it, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that this one's going. So this is the bordered Deviant Moon, and if you have known me for a long time, then you'll know that I love Patrick Valenza's artwork. I love this steampunk-esque industrial layered artwork that comes with this deck. Very much. I freaking hate the cardstock, and I used to have the borderless with the 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗏 book, which I sold as like a package deal, and I did miss the artwork, but I have his gifted to me by a dear friend. I have the 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗏 della Luna aquedoxical illustrated pips, and I read with it all the time. They feel completely different, and honestly, I'm going to be really honest, if this was on the same cardstock, I'd probably have no problems whatsoever. I just can't get on with this cardstock still, even though it's slightly smaller than the borderless and it's slightly easier in hand. It just upsets my hands constantly. And the thing is, I already have some decks, which this is my absolutely favourite card. And also for some reason, this Queen always comes out for me when I'm using this deck. And I rarely ever pull the Queen of Wands. Like, ever. But I always get it in this. I shuffled it today when I got it out, just having a little feel and think about things, and pulled her again. So we definitely vibe, but it's more of an artistic appreciation at this stage. And And the thing is, I have absolute non-negotiable favourite decks that obliterate my hands already. And I say that because my hands suffer a lot of pain from like fibromyalgia and just other pain conditions and things that are inconvenient, but nevertheless true. And it's like, you know, the 𝗵𝘁𝗍𝗔 Tarot. I don't want to have lots of decks in hand that hurt. And it sounds really simple, but it's just, yeah, it's quite brutal, the cardstock. And it's a shame because I have this US Games cardstock, or at least it's very similar, on the 𝗵𝘁𝗍𝗃 Tarot. I'll get it. But the sizing's different. And the 𝗵𝘁𝗍𝗃 Tarot, so I got rid of the 𝗺𝗁 Tarot, which is another US Games one. Same reason, cardstock too big. A lot of people have said this about the cardstock, especially because it's quite cardboardy and thick and sort of sharp on the edges, weirdly. It's not like old US Games cardstock. And I'm not precious about cardstock in some ways, and other ways I'm a snob, I guess, but to me it's not really snobbery. It's like, if it's not going to get used and it hurts me, you know, and it costs money and things like that, it just seems sensible to me. This is the 𝗵𝘁𝗍𝗃 Tarot. Can you see how much shorter it is? So it seems to not agitate my hands anywhere near as much, because shuffling it long ways, which is what I do, but then it's really thin. I don't know. I can't explain my body, but so far the 𝗵𝘁𝗍𝗃 Tarot is the only new US Games cardstock that I've managed to get on with. And this is everything to me. This is way more steampunk than the 𝗵𝘁𝗃. The 𝗵𝘁𝗃 feels very jestery and comedic visually, not necessarily how they read. I find the readings more similar for me, but yeah, there's a lot more Punch and Judy from people who are familiar with Punch and Judy, like puppetry, that kind of tongue-in-cheek, although it's got a really wicked side. This feels more like they feel like an expression of something. This feels more like an actual world to me. And we're in the world and these are its beings. And I absolutely love the artwork, but it just feels incredibly wasteful to keep a deck just for the artwork, because I'm at the stage where I could probably do that with 5 or 6, and then I've got 5 or 6 decks that I'm not using, to add to a couple of nostalgia ones that I just don't seem to part with, that I've had since I was really young, and I don't like that feeling. It's I'm quite self-judgmental on that. It gets too close to just, yeah, keeping shit for the sake of keeping shit, which is fine if people want to do that. It's just, I already do that in tiny little increments with stuff, you know. I have other interests, so I have to draw the line somewhere, and I think that this one's going to go again. So I'm pretty certain if someone that I know wanted this locally, they can have it. It comes in the tuck box. It's got the little white book in it still. It's in really good condition. The box is a bit tired, but the rest of it's in really good condition. It's just, yeah, just it doesn't want to be friends with my hands. Marlena says, I feel like half the room is 𝗵𝘁𝗃 and half the room is Deviant Moon. Or they collect them all. Yeah, you're on the Deviant Moon side. You couldn't get on with the 𝗵𝘁𝗃. What was it about the 𝗵𝘁𝗃? I'm really curious, just because I'm nosy. As I say, I would lovingly have all of Patrick's stuff, but I wouldn't have it in all of the colours. I would, for me, and whilst I don't really have a wish list at the moment, because it's just the way that things have happened, I'm quite disenchanted with new stuff coming out as well. Not all of it, but just a lot of it. I absolutely would love a paradoxical version of his 𝗵𝘁𝗃, just the standard Marseille one. I would love a copy of that. And I really love the traditional colouring of the black enchantments, or even like he did like a orangey sour one, he did like a blood moon looking one, but the black enchantments oracle looks awesome, and so does that little one he's got. What is it, like Mildred Payne Oracle? I'd happily have a copy of each of those 3 decks, but his stuff is far too expensive for me to get over in the UK. I just, with customs and shipping and postal fees, like postal handling fees, which are different to shipping and customs, I can't warrant it, and no one stocks it in the UK. But in terms of his mass-produced decks, I just think it's going to be a no for me based on what's going on with the card stock at the moment at that publisher, unless they make them shorter and square. Like, if the oracle that's being made to go with this was maybe the 𝗵𝘁𝗿𝗄𝗃 Tarot size, and I thought that I would use it, then I would potentially get it. Hi, Phyllis. I could make it borderless, but I'll be honest, I don't mod decks anymore, and the reason being is the process of modding decks gives me just as much hand and wrist pain. Even if I was like to do 10 cards a day, it's kind of a weird repetition thing, and I'm very sensitive about upsetting my body in new ways, because the level of disability and chronic pain in the last, well, since 2020 basically, has been an insurmountable increase. And as it stands, my hands don't get upset when I work online or type or anything like that, and I need it as part of my work and just my livelihood and sanity. So yeah, modding decks is something that I have to watch from afar and enjoy other people doing. But I have seen people make it borderless, and it is a really lovely size. So there is always the potential if someone wanted it. That is a good shout. Marlena says, I suppose the best way I can explain is that I couldn't take it seriously. The Deviant Moon, as you said, feels like a full world that you can immerse in, and the 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃 illustrated pips to you was you couldn't get past the humour, because I do love a deck with a sense of humour, but you couldn't get past it. I totally understand. They've definitely got a different presentation. It's funny, I definitely found the experience of reading with them similar, but it goes down to such an individual relational thing, doesn't it? And there's things that those 2 decks remind me of together as well, like historically in my life, and a few people they remind me of as well. So it's funny. I like exploring that. Yeah, exactly, Phyllis. If it gives you pain, it's not worth it, unless it's the 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃 Tarot. At least for me. What have we got next? I wanted to talk about this one, because before people get excited, I don't think that this one is going. So we've had 2 goes, but I do want to talk about this and the potential of it having to be either used or in the future. So this is the Pathfinder Oracle, and I was gifted this a long time ago by an old friend, who also gifted me the mini. I have to say, if I ever did decide to part with a Pathfinder, which I'm not at the moment, but I will tell you why it's in the declutter, and I am going to process my thoughts with you, I would keep the mini, because yeah, I've used the mini a lot for rituals. Go figure. I know. Yeah, some things are worth it. For me, the 𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃 Tarot is definitely worth it. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, for sure. Thank you, Ingrid. I appreciate the emotional support. So this is a 48 card oracle deck, and the Pathfinder is by the incredible 𝗫𝘺 Schwartz, who is the creator of the Wooden Tarot and the Earthbound Oracle, which, if you don't know, I've had both of those years. I love both of them. I did a really long walkthrough review kind of deal on the Wooden Tarot. For anyone who wants to know what the things are on the cards, because there's no guidebook. This comes with a guidebook, and it was a later creation, and I will acknowledge that at the time of this creation, I believe 𝗫𝘺 was out in the desert, which there's a lot of infusion of that, and in a particular vibe. I have never really chilled out in that kind of desert environment before. The only desert that I've really been to, deserts I suppose, are when I've been exploring years ago in places like Egypt. But in terms of the terrain, I'm not massively familiar with some of the terrain in here. And what I notice is there's 4 cards, which I will go through, that I just, I think that I need to take them out, or at least 3 of these 4, but the 4th one seems to fit with them. So what I did before I came on was I was flicking through it, which this is the deck that made me decide maybe I should just do this with others. It's got 4 positions and it's broken down in the 4 positions. It's a lovely idea. It's fun. Perhaps some people would retain it. It's not how I successfully use the deck, I'm not going to lie. I mostly don't pay any attention to this. I don't use it as a diamond. I use it as a square. And I go with, oh, this is the way up though, ish, because it is meant to be diamond. I go with just what I get from these. And that does successfully work for me until I was getting these, which is why I split the deck today. So I thought that I would show you quickly how I've broke the deck down and then talk to you about some of the, well, these 4. Thankfully they're not numbered, although I would take, if I only had a handful of cards to take out, I would take it out of a numbered deck as well. I do like the artwork in this. It's quite a different flavour from his other stuff though, but I do like it, and I'm very fond of just his artwork in particular, which is why I was keen to sort of give this one another go. So I've broken it down into kind of items, I guess. So we've got the key and the quill, and when I say items, it then very swiftly moves into they're sort of items, but they're more earthy. So seed, fruit. I kind of do just wish this said mushroom or fungi, and it's because there's more of a fruit focused message in the guidebook. I will probably just ignore it. So there's going to be, it's me kind of finding a way of having a relationship with this deck that works for me, or letting it go. And I started doing it and then I just stopped. So part of that is probably I will just call this fungi, because it talks about fruits and seeds. And really for me, fungi is more about the things like spores, and I never pronounce it properly. Is it mycelium? You know, and everything that goes on and how it engages, and potentially being like poisonous, and but all of the facets basically of fungi. So there's that. Tree, shell, I didn't know where to put this, it kind of fit. And then my absolute favourite card in the whole deck, which is the Companion, which is whimsical and feels very like I'm in a fantasy game, which is, yeah, what I want from life, basically. Then it goes into what I sort of broke down as concepts. I'll go through them quickly, but like home, goal, time, and then we move into, I didn't put this with the items because it's an expression with the hands, but you sort of see what I'm going for. We've got like a cup, road, bridge, door, boulder, tower, cave, and it starts getting bigger. Canyon. This is one that I need to work with. Like, I don't have a meaning for a canyon. I've never seen one. And it's, you know, there's a lot of animals that I have meaning for that I've never seen or don't live near. But of course, I don't have an interest in everything under the sun. And so I really need to develop something to do with canyon. Mountain, desert. I can get something for desert. I have been, like I said, to a desert. Moving into sort of like elemental and environmental factors, things that can occur, so fire, snow, flood, which I really love these cards. Storm. Then moving into the sky in particular, the sun, the moon, the cosmos, and then we've got our animals, which I'm going to go through even quicker. I obviously have zero relationship with cicadas, but I know a lot about them. I love the little molts, or whatever they're called, that they leave behind as well. And people seem to have a very love-hate relationship with them. They either really love the noise or they really detest it. So beetle, moth, bat, raven, hawk, salmon, whale, snake, tortoise, mouse, cat, really interesting selection, sheep, fox, coyote, bison. Strange but interesting and enjoyable selection of animals there. So I think that I can work with that. I've taken these out. And the UFO is the one that I'm toying with adding back in, more because I love the concept of what's beyond. You know, I know we've got the cosmos, but like what else exists? And then that discussion of like what's fantasy and what's real, and the invitation to consider things that we don't know. So I feel like UFO could kind of go back in there. But hear me out for these, because I do have a cosmic egg in another deck. And I'm not going to lie, it's not my favourite in that, but I leave it in. I certainly don't want it in a second deck. I've got a cosmic egg, a black egg, a gold egg in the 𝗵𝗁𝗄𝗃 animal deck. And it's my least favourite part of that deck. I have context for it within that deck based on the other things. I feel no context for it in this. And this cosmic layer that you can see blending, I get it. I get the desert links and the UFO stuff and perhaps some of the things that are being aligned to, because it's not an interest or an experience or a locale that I'm familiar with. It kind of starts to stretch out of my area of like interest, and I don't like to force things. And then these two, I'm not usually like this, I'll be honest, but apparently in this deck I am. So there's always exceptions. They don't fit the deck. And then it gets into, actually I love flower, and if it looked like a flower, like the seed was done, or the how the tree was depicted, if it looked like an everyday flower, I would keep it in the deck. I love it. The idea of blooming flowers are very different to trees to me. They're very different stage to the seed. But I feel a bit twitchy about just leaving this one card in, because the only card it matches is this. Apparently I have none of these issues in the mini, might I add. And prism absolutely means nothing to me. Like, and what I mean by this is, yes, of course I can assign meaning to it, and I know what a prism is, and there's lots of symbolic keywords that I can get, but it doesn't really mean anything to me in my practice. It's not connective. And I have lots, as we've established, I have a fair amount of decks, so I don't want to be in a space where I've got sprinklings of things in that aren't connecting. And I think I'm just getting damn fussier as time goes on. And even though my practice will always ebb and flow and evolve and shapeshift, certain aspects really firm up over time, you know? So I'm kind of like, I don't mind this one. Maybe I'll leave it in, actually. I like the meaning, but I'm not sure about putting this card in like that on its own. And honestly, I'm quite happy to leave those two completely out of the deck. So that's kind of where I've landed at that. And then it's like the concepts in this, some of them are replicated in a lot of other decks that I own. Oh, that's really shiny there, sorry. Especially the animals and the nature. It's not like I don't have that, although I am obsessed with Andy's artwork. But I really need to firm up some of the things like canyon, you know, what boulder means versus what a tower means for me, and really foster and flesh out some of those meanings and put it into practice and see if it offers enough that makes it a standout deck, because I use this one for reading with. I use this one for rituals and spellcraft. And they do feel like two completely different decks to me, and I don't know why. The artwork, as you can see, it's 𝗵𝘁𝗵𝘁𝗍. It's the same artwork. It doesn't have the keywords on, which is a benefit to me in this particular instance. Now I know what everything is. But it's not as detailed. You can't get this, sorry. I don't know if you can get the Pathfinder, but this was like a Kickstarter add-on, hit you so many backers or whatever it was. But I have used this in various rituals as representations of things, calling things in, you name it. Absolutely freaking love it. So it's funny because they feel different to me, and for some reason in this I don't mind those ones. I will be honest, I still don't use the prism, and the egg I would not consider it a cosmic egg. I would use it as an egg, and so the nuances of how I would approach that are a little different. But I'm curious, do they even look different but at all? Not really. But I don't use the prism in this one either. The prism is probably the card that's on my hit list the most, I'll be honest. So it's a bit of an interesting one because I think that I need to use it. I don't like myself to force things that I am not called to, because I have a larger collection out of the sheer joys of using it as and when I feel. But this one is going to kind of exist in that space now of like, you know, use it or lose it, buddy. I think I'll give myself between 6 months to a little longer to kind of make a decision either way. Because like I said, I don't like to tailor decks too much. If I'm doing too much work with it to make it work for me, then it's not. It's just that. Right, let's have a look. I want to catch up with your comments. How long have I been live? 40 minutes. Some of them are far quicker, so don't worry. And if we get bored, we can leave. Well, I can't, but you can. Phyllis says, I had the Earthbound for so long, and because everyone loves it, you kept it in your collection. You recently let it go because you didn't have the same experience as everyone else. Yes, I totally get that. I think that's great. Yay for letting it go if it didn't work for you. It's definitely an acquired taste, I think. It often surprises me how popular it's been in the community. Not because I don't think it warrants it, just because I see things in that deck that I hear people struggling with in other decks. So, Kelly's least favourite card in the Pathfinder is the Companion. You just find it out of place along with one of the cards that you saw me put aside. That's so funny. Maybe you'll be more fond of the Companion because I went on about it, or maybe you'll be inspired to just take it out, because honestly, like I think I don't love decks that aren't more than sort of 50 cards. I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm just that person. I love my Oracle decks to be 50 or more, I think, if I'm going to put a number on it. But having grown up around the era of decks being around 40 to 44 for Oracles, and that one being 48, I feel okay with taking up to 4 cards out, and it's still feeling like a substantial enough Oracle, if that makes sense. So, yeah. You like the rainbows, Ingrid says, but different deck. Yeah, it's not, I don't dislike the artwork, it stands out to me, and my brain's like, what's the intention behind the Oracle? It's called Pathfinder. Does it match the title? It's a really good question, Marlena. I feel like it does, but conceptually it's not really discussed much in the book. But I would argue that it is a very good storytelling deck. If you use a lot of cards at once, you can sort of see where you are along your story, like, and if you're going to use it as a story from like where I've come from to where I go to, and the boulders are in your future, then you know that obstacles are coming up. Whereas if they're in your past, you know, so in that sort of story weaving way, I think that it does a good job. And I think Andy's Oracle decks in particular are really good at identifying clear points on a path in a way that helps the exploration moving forward. But I feel like Pathfinder is such an open term, and the particular story path that one's led down, as I say, is very infused by the area that Andy was in, and it's one that I'm less familiar with. So it perhaps isn't as immediately effective for me as some other people, if that answers your question, but at all. A trio of witches. Hello, you've just woke up. I'm assuming it's early your end. Yes, the mini one is teensy tiny, and usually I'm not there are a few decks that I like in smaller sizes. I definitely don't own anything else that ridiculously small. I don't get the small cute aggression that other people get. But it's freaking awesome I use it like with my runes and my poppet, and it's an inclusion, like a tool expansion of my rituals and stuff. So it's very handy in that size for that. Yes, I agree, Marlena. There is something about the small one where it doesn't have the lines on it that does give it a different feel. It feels more open to me. It's a tiny bit more expansive as well. So there's that. Let's get on to a deck that no one's probably seen on my channel other than in my collection for an absolute age. Oh God, that was shiny. And that is the Lavish Earth Oracle. And I'm going to be really honest and say that I've held on to this because it's an indie deck. I've had it for an incredibly long time. It's absolutely stunning, and I love the quotes, and I know that I won't be able to get it again. But I haven't used it in a long time other than to read the quotes. And so I really need to think about the reality of this one staying in my collection, to be honest. Don't see it about very often, actually, but deck YouTube has quite a fast turnover. I know that Kelly from The Truth in Story loves it. She was probably the one that inspired me to get it many years ago. But here we are in a situation where, as someone who does own crystals but doesn't work with them in that traditional metaphysical, they have these set meanings that are widely agreed upon, I don't work with crystals that way. So it's kind of a strange deck for me to have anyway. But I definitely dabbled and tried that out around the time that I had this deck. So it does make sense. But, you know, stuff changes. The desert landscape depicted in the deck is one of the reasons I held off buying Pathfinder. Then I decided that it feels more like a dreamscape, and suddenly it made more sense to you. Says Kelly. Oh, I like it. And I do think that Andy's artwork does have that beautifully dreamy, obscure invitation to it. And I, like you, I'm very kind of besotted with the extra eyes and the things that other people find sometimes creepy. I like it. It's a mood. So the things that I like about Lavish Earth is the aesthetic. I'm not going to lie. Lovely cardstock. I like seeing what crystals look like, but this is a very separate thing. So if you don't know me very well, my interests are very I love fact collecting. I love visual reference books. My neurodiversity is very obvious in some of those ways. You know, I've collected animal encyclopedias and how to keep these pets books since I was very little. I don't unfortunately have many of them from when I was little, but I have one. Yes, I'm looking at it now. It's so cute and old. It's a rabbit one. And I'm very much, whilst I know loads about animals and have clearly hyper-focused and dedicated a huge portion of my life to that interest, these other interests aren't as high up on the scale of importance at all. But I do love minerals and rocks and crystals, and I freaking love reference books about them. And this is like having a tiny one, except it doesn't really say as much as I would like about where they come from or how they're formed. And it's very metaphysical and quite a dash more woo than is my traditional vocabulary, I guess, or approach. But what I like is I get to see what they look like. I get the name. I'm never going to own all these crystals. I'm very particular about how I buy them and where from and blah, blah, blah. I like the keywords and I like some of the quotes. There was a quote that I read that really pissed me off and felt really ableist. And I was like, So that's kind of where I am. And I just, I don't know whether it's like I said, I'm not like this very often. I've got rid of some impossible to replace decks before, but for some reason with this one I'm very aware that I won't be able to replace it. But then it's like, okay, so red amethyst, each time history repeats itself, the price goes up. Now that is a quote in my world, and I like strength lessons and breakthrough. I don't necessarily associate red amethyst with all of that. If I'm working with it, I work with crystals much more on a energetic me and them in the moment kind of experience, especially because a lot of them share mineral deposits, and I've not got all the right words, but you know, places that they're formed. There's a lot of things they share as well as differences they have. So it's more of an energy, personal relationship for me. But I can use this as an oracle, but I'm not very interested in this bit anymore. And this one looks like it's not too bad. Red amethyst lends great strength. Like something from a land long past, this magnificent amethyst has stories to tell of worlds created and laid to waste. History has lessons to teach us, and when we have the aha moment and break the cycle of repetition that has kept us trapped, it's as if trumpets should blast, and truly somewhere they do. No longer being bound by the past harkens a great awakening on a personal level, and can also deeply affect everyone around us. Red amethyst gets its deep red colour from iron and hematite. Ooh, that I like. I like that. So I'm at that stage where I'm like, can I get enough from this to continue enjoying it? And I suppose use it as, okay, in the same way as artwork inspires any oracle deck, these are the inspiration for these keywords. I don't have to completely ascribe to that belief in red amethyst. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of semantics, I guess, but it makes sense to me. Or is it gonna see straight away? Is it going to piss me off too much to keep? Are there too many no cards? I don't really want to go through all the yeses and nos with you. So I feel like this one's going to remain a question mark because we'd be here for a while. It's got a lovely amount of cards. But no. I'm not an ascension person. I understand what the word means. I also very much understand it in the metaphysical world. It has some massively negative connotations for me based on being brought up around, was it 3D at the time before, where like people were talking about 5D consciousness now. It's a very difficult thing for me to talk about without probably upsetting people, because I believe everyone is entitled to their own beliefs, and I really try not to put myself in a position where I'm shitting on other people's beliefs, because it's not my business. Like, not publicly in this way. Like, I might have discussions about things with people more intimately, but I'm not seeking to just be on the internet upsetting people. And at the same time, I'm not going to lie. And I will say that my experience of spirituality and that side of things growing up with a particular family member was incredibly detrimental. And like, being told that we had to prepare for the world ending and this new 3-4 consciousness was going to come in, and we were all going to die, but our souls were going to ascend. And there was a lot of discussion around soul contracts, and I take a big fucking issue with those on a personal level. It's okay if you believe in them, as long as you don't tell me that I need to believe in them. That's basically where I land on most things. You know, if I don't believe it and you do, that's fine. You do you. Just don't tell me I'm wrong, and I won't tell you you're wrong. So it's kind of like that, having conditions come up over the years, and having also like parenting and stuff be sort of fallen back onto as like, well, you signed up for this before you came here anyway, so you know, you knew the deal. If I was a parent at this point, or if you had this trauma occur, it feels very victim blamey to me, in a way that people have zero control over. And yeah, there's just a lot of damage that some of my experiences of spirituality, of the craft, of woo, had for quite a few years, that led me to completely come away from this community and anything that was to do with it for easily 5 years, if not more. So I think whilst I feel like words are complex and we definitely give them meaning, there are some words that, as you can see, because it took me on a whole process, that really, really irritate me. And unfortunately, I have too much, well, not unfortunately, I have too much of a relationship with them to just, you know, it's not water off a duck's back in the same way. And reading that this is an ascension crystal and higher vibration and soul evolution could mean many wonderful and glorious things, and yet it does give me soul contract vibes and stuff. The only bit that interests me on this, because is probably transition in the keyword, and then the fact that this says, how do we pronounce that? Refers to crystal containing gypsum, which is a major rock forming crystal sometimes occurring in massive deposits. Let's see what the quote says, because I really went on a rant there, sorry. If you knew who you really are, you would always treat yourself with respect. You would be in awe of yourself. No. Do you see? I think that this is perhaps a problem for me with this deck, and probably why I haven't used it in a while. Let's see, have I upset lots and lots of people? Let's have a look. You feel like you did a declutter a while back and realised that you wanted a book rather than a deck for something. Oh, I totally get that. I've definitely got rid of some over the last couple of years in particular and replaced them with a book. I definitely think that, excuse me, that this is definitely giving me get a freaking nerd book, Tegan, and be done with this deck. I really love some of the quotes, but that's who wants a deck that takes them on a rant like that? Seriously. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I could do with this deck. Some ideas are being given, but again, I'm very much like, I'd just rather someone else use the deck and enjoyed it. And it's probably one of the few that I would consider selling. I wouldn't, see, this is a thing, I'm not going to sell it for ridiculous out of print prices. It could be in print for all I know. All I know is it's really freaking hard to get in the UK. I will probably sell this one just so that I can cover the costs of other things that I'll be giving away. But yeah, I'm getting a bit of a no-go vibe from this. I really love I love what the person has done, and I'm usually much more wary about getting into those kind of things, because I don't suggest that's a representation of the entire being of the person who created this deck, you know, but it's just my experience of it. And it doesn't surprise me, because there is a chakra reference card, and I don't work with chakras. I have done in the past, but I don't. And like I said, I don't work with crystals in the way that is being portrayed here. So if I'm honest, I might have to let this one go. Freaking love petrified wood. I love the little bit at the bottom, but yeah. And because I was trying something out at the time when I got this deck, I think it's a representation of its time. You know, it makes sense. It made sense to me then. I wasn't going to buy all the crystals in the world, so if I had a representation of them and I was trying out working with them in the way that it presents here, that's really accessible instead of buying all of the crystals. But yeah, I think that's going in the no. I think it's going in the go pile, not the no pile. So that's the Lavish Earth Crystal Affirmation deck, which, yeah, it's time. I can't. Yeah, I think the thing is, there's lots of things I could do. I could make notes of it. I could take pictures. I could take half of the cards out and still use it. But I'm like, no, I've got good books with quotes. I've got poetry. I've got this. I've got that. And like I said, I like to get to a point where I'm quite sharp with myself in that, no, you've messed around too much now. You've not used it. You've had a rant about it. When was the last time you used it? Come on now. Yes, you can't replace it, but you're not using it. So yeah, that's kind of that's where I'm at. So I think that's going in the go, which makes 3. When it comes to decluttering, the hard part is letting go. Once they're gone, we don't think about the decks for a second. At least that's your experience. Yes, I mean, for the most part, I like I said, I'm very fortunate, and the decluttering process isn't difficult for me. That one is a little more, but it's not really. I'm going to give a really good example of that now, which is a very beautiful gift from a very dear friend, who I share this on here knowing that they won't take it personally, that they know that I have loved and enjoyed the deck, and that this is how I roll as a person. And anyone who's gifted me anything very much knows that. In the same way that they know if I gift them something, I fully expect them to sell or gift it on, and I don't mind if they want to make money off of it if it doesn't work for them. So, like I said, I think that sometimes people find me quite brutal in that instance, but yeah, that's just, I don't want to pretend and keep. I have too many wonderful people around me. If I kept everything I was gifted, I would have a freaking museum. So the next is the birdkin messages, which you do not see around a lot at all. I feel like I can speak for everyone now. It's beautifully made, really beautifully made. My dear friend who sends me bones that she's found on the beach and other coastal regions and stuff knows I have an absolute obsession with feathers. I'm a feather forager. I love birds. And I have massively enjoyed this in the terms of the photography. The thing about this deck is I have another bird deck that I'm pretty sure encompasses all of the it's not of feathers, it's of the birds, but it has all of these birds in it. So the thing that makes me want to keep this deck is the photography, because I'm a photography nerd as well. And like I said, again, it's got that encyclopedia vibe to it for me. This is what the bird's feather looks like. However, a portion of these I own, so I've many dove and pigeon feathers, some of this variety, some of others. I've got crow. I was gifted a peacock one. Let's have a look. I mean, some of these birds aren't in my region as well, right? But so I have some of them. The other thing is that because I have the other bird deck, I'm not very inclined anymore, because I didn't have all of them then, to come to this one very often. So I feel like I would want it to offer something different to me, but it doesn't have keywords on it. Now, I don't need it to when it's animals, but like I said, I would want it to add something different. And the guidebook is not the kind of way that I read or speak. It's absolutely beautiful. Look at, it's got this it's not gilding, is it? What is it? Embossed rose round it. It's really lovely quality, beautiful deck, and the photography is crisp as you like. Nice inclusion of birds as well, but no keywords on the card, which means that I use it like my birds deck, which means that it doesn't see use, basically. If it had the keywords on, then I think it might have been something that I might have been more keen to give it a try that way. It's got very sweet keywords: gentle, collaborate, prayer, truth, community, ignite, student, awakening. But the messages inside, like this one, desire. What is your inner dialogue when it comes to sex? Many of us have Puritan-rooted beliefs of shame and repression connected to our sexuality. We each have different levels of relating, so this form of intimacy may affect you differently than another. Feel into your physical, spiritual, and psychological parts of your sexual experiences to find out where you are on the journey. They're not... It just doesn't give me animal deck vibes. It's not quite the same way that I work with animals. It's a really interesting... I don't think that you get these messages in a lot of decks. Like, I think the discussion of sex, whilst I wouldn't have necessarily said loads of us all have Puritan, like, it's a bit too... I know they didn't say all, they said most. It wasn't quite how I would word it, but a good conversation all the same. Talks about belly laughs, talks about theatrics, but there's just something about it. It doesn't. It hasn't grasped my heart for. Oh, look at the gilding as well. It's kind of, if you're curious, because I don't know if the camera's showing it, it's more like a rose gold gilding actually. I don't think it's captured my heart enough that it's like a must have, and I absolutely love my friend for gifting me this and could see why, and used it as well, like I said, and used it. But I had the Birds 1 Oracle, and then over time I added to it with the Birds 2 Oracle, and honestly it's kind of, it's like an ultimate, it's done, like that's the thing. So yeah, I think that this one, again, it would have to be like I'm not itching at the bit to get rid of this, but at the same time I think that there's probably a different home for it. Bye Trio of Witches, I hope that you have a good day. Good to hear that there's a photography nerd on TarotTube. Oh, for sure, Rolf. I love it. I love it. I love taking photos. I used to take a lot more of animals, but like I said, don't want to bore people with my health stuff and disability stuff, but at the moment it's not really feasible for me to be out and about with a heavy camera taking macro shots, which is my favourite. I never did get a really good long distance, as I'll call it, lens, and I'm still very much like an amateur. Like, I never took training or anything, but yeah, I have to sort of live vicariously through the wonder that is camera phones, which of course they've got a lot better, and I do love taking photos, which people can probably tell from my Instagram feed. Let's see if I've missed anything. Ingrid, I had one time of regretting getting rid of something and now I struggle. It was the 𝗪𝗁𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗀. I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly, but I'm not actually familiar with that deck. I'll have to have a nosy after. Just thought I recognised guinea fowl as a feather on your altar. Oh, that's cool. There is a mass market feather deck, Phyllis. It is it by US Games? It sort of looks like watercolour art to me. I know that it's predominantly white background, and a very similar feeling to that one in particular is it does have keywords or a phrase on it, but it wasn't for me, basically. Yeah. So what else do we have? Let's go through some of these quicker. People, help me decide. Do I keep it? Does it go? I'm so sick of talking about this deck or thinking about this deck. This is the original Mythic Tarot. I grew up with the original Mythic Tarot. It was one of the decks that my mum had, so I was really familiar with the artwork. There was a lot of nostalgia around it. She then bought me my own copy, and I lost the devil card to it when I was a teenager and got rid of the rest of the deck because I didn't know any better. I didn't think there would come a time when I might be able to get a replacement devil card. And that's basically that. I have then been through phases of wanting to recreate some of the nostalgia that is, I suppose, attached to those childhood memories. And I really loved the book. The book is a very interesting one. It has a lot of Greek myth in it. It's done very well, especially for its time, from memory anyway. Anyway, this is the third time that I've got a copy of this. The first time I managed to, because I won't pay over sort of £40 to £45 for an out of print deck. That's just how I roll. The first time I managed to get hold of a copy, it arrived absolutely beaten. So I sent it back and got a refund. The second time I got a copy, so I'm starting to feel like I don't feel like this very often, but you know, it's becoming a theme. The second time I got a copy, some of the artwork had that thing where the printer sort of slips and it gives it like a double line. I have chronic migraines. It was not friendly to my eyes, even though it was really subtle. So I sold it to someone else for the price I'd paid for it because they said they were totally fine with that. It didn't bother them at all. They were just desperate to have it. I managed to secure a third copy of this, which over the years is very impressive given that, like I said, I will not pay over a certain amount for it. And people sell this for absolutely exorbitant prices. I've seen it go for 200, 300. I mean, it pains me. I'm not shaming you if you spent that on it. I just couldn't sell it for that. So this one was cut, and it's probably not going to show. If I split it in half, it would. Half of the deck is smaller than the other half. It's really not a huge deal, but it's just a thing. It's just one of those things. Like I said, I don't mod. I do like the artwork because it reminds me of being little and learning tarot. Well, not really learning tarot so much as reading tarot, They are two very different things. It wasn't really a learning process in the way that a lot of people come to tarot now. But learning how, I suppose, my mum used tarot, like watching her pull cards, watching her journal with it. She was a massive journaler. She dream journaled as well. Learning about the Greek myth, which, as I've said before, at least in the UK, in my age range, Greek mythology is one of the things that we were taught in school. They left out a lot of other cultures, but Greek was always one that was included. And yeah, do you think I've used it? No. I haven't. So I'm now trying to decide which, this one's a question mark at the moment. So what have I got? I've got 4 to go, which is the Halloween Oracle, the Deviant Moon Tarot, the Crystal Affirmation cards, the Birdkin messages. The Pathfinder is to be used. And this is kind of a question mark because I don't know whether I've fallen into the trap of my mind of trying to recreate something and it not having the meaning. Like, it's not the one my mum bought me. It's not one that someone else has gifted to me that I'm close with. It's not my copy. You know, it's just, I don't know. And I don't want it just to own it. Isn't this a cool bag match for it though? I was gifted this bag by one of my creator friends. So I have, not the box, but I have a bag with it in there, and I have the book, and I'm very much questioning its livelihood. Here's a very quick one that is going, because we've been here for a while now, and I think it's going to be soon time to start wrapping up. That is a big box. This now exists, and it's called the Witch's Oracle. They rebranded it from Wicca, which of course Wicca can be definitely a part of witchcraft. It does interest me that they rebranded it as the Witch Oracle because I feel like it makes more sense as a Wicca. And anyway, this is not my using copy. Basically what happened is I've had the deck since I was really little. Well, not really little. I've had the deck since at least pre-teen. And obviously then Wicca and witchcraft wasn't, I didn't necessarily have an understanding of the differences or anything like that. But it was another one. I either bought it in Glastonbury or I was gifted it by my mum. I really can't remember which. I think I might have bought myself this one. But anyway, I've had it since I was young. I really love the artwork. I couldn't find the book, and a very dear friend of mine managed to find a copy of the book for an amazing price. They sent it to me, and it turned out that it had another copy of the cards in it. So I've had it sitting there. These, you can tell this isn't my copy because I've rounded the edges on my copy. And this obviously doesn't have the round edges. The updated version of this has, the lighting is there. The updated version of this has white borders around it and purple backs, I think. I don't believe anything else has changed, but I know that people don't love the borders. So this is in better condition than my one. And honestly, I thought, well, I don't have the book, so I'll just keep it. My dad found the book. So now I have 2 books and 2 decks. And then which isn't very like me, I don't have duplicates of many decks. I have duplicates of a handful. I have a duplicate of the medicine cards, a duplicate of the Medicine Woman Tarot, I feel like I've got a duplicate of something else that is just completely skipped out of my brain. I definitely have a duplicate of something else. And it's because if they stop printing them, whilst of course I could 100% live without them, I'd rather not. I've had those decks since I was little, and I wanted the same copy of them before they stopped printing them. But, you know, if anything happened to my house, both sets would get ruined and I'd have 0 still. So it's kind of, it's more to, it's more as a precaution because I'm quite heavy-handed and my coordination's not always great and I'm just accident prone, okay? If someone's going to bend a card in half or spill something on it or burn it, it is probably going to be me. So when I realised I then had 2 sets of this, I kept it because this one's in a lot better condition. Like mine's quite scratched. And this one isn't. This one's in amazing condition given how old it is. I don't need 2 copies, let's be honest. Okay, if something happens to one of these cards, I'll just have to live with it because I don't use it that often. And whilst I wouldn't say it's so Wicca that you can't use it if you're not Wiccan, it's not the deck I'm coming to. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It reminds me of the artwork that was around in the 90s on a lot of decks. It feels like a time in my life. It has fallen into, my copy has fallen into one of those nostalgic places for me. I don't need a backup. And like I said, now I don't need to keep the deck. So it is an actual pack that I can let go. So that's going in my to go. The only reason it's not in the box currently is because I've wrapped the deck to protect it. But that's in the to go. And just a couple more and then I'm done. The Cosmic Allies, absolutely beautiful. Was sent this deck. I reviewed it by the lovely creator, 𝗵𝗂𝗍. I love all of her stuff. And I have, I bought her first Spirit Cats Oracle deck myself. And then we connected online. And since she has sent me stuff for review over the years. And I absolutely feel very, very honoured by that. And I used this deck for a good couple of years and I don't use it anymore and it feels like a shame. Whereas her Witch's Cat Oracle and her Spirit Cats Oracle I use lots. Like they're literally just down to the left of me. And this is such a good book. Like if you work with the planets in this way or planetary stuff and the days of the week, she is one of the people to walk you through it with this altar deck. And it has her exquisite sort of art style. These altar cards are something to behold. Look at the hollow. The only thing to note on this, and my copy wasn't tended too kindly by the posties our end, is that there's a little bit of wear on the hollow corners. Again, it's not a deck that I'm like desperate to get rid of, but it would be nice if it got used. It has the ally on one side and then it has the planetary stuff on the other, depending. Oh, this is an as above so below card, so an extra. And then in the book it takes you through what day, you know, equates to the sun and when you could work with that and what the planetary and other invitations could be. So here you go, the sun for Sunday. Offerings, eat and drink me, minerals and metals that align to the actions you could do, mantras, the zodiac sign, the colours. It's a really, really well done, and every single one has a freaking spread. That to me is an altar deck done right because it's only got 8 cards. And never in my life have I used another deck that's had so few cards. It's just not getting used now. And it's an absolute utter shame because it's freaking stunning. So it's in my to go for that. But as I say, it's not one that I am like, well, I'm not just going to throw them all outside. But what I mean is it'll go when the time is right. The Whispering Woods, I think that these are going to stay because I did go through them, but I think I've realised why they're not necessarily working for me at the moment. And the reason is really, when I boil it down, all oracle cards are keywords and invitations, right? Mostly. Aside from things like the soul cards that I've got and stuff like that, a lot of my decks can be used for very simple keyword invitations if I want to. But the reason that I got the Whispering Woods is my stepmom has, and she's had them for ages, for years and years and years, but they do still do them, angel cards. She doesn't have the book that went with it. And she's actually not a very angel-y person. Like, she's not the sort of person you would have expected to have that deck. Her deck tastes are like, well, I mean, she only has one tarot deck and it's the 𝗨. But she has these angel cards, which are probably about half the size of these, if not a third. And again, it has like a little angel on it and a keyword, and that's it. She's had them for years. They are so loved, and they're actually, I would say a bowl, but they're in a singing bowl on her dresser in her working room. And we go in there and rummage around and pick a card. And I'm sure her clients have done it over the years. And it's something that I've done ever since I've known her. I've known my stepmom since I was about 6.5. So I really love that. But I didn't really want angel ones, because the thing is, I love them because they're hers. I can't recreate that just by getting the same deck. And I didn't really want to pay for the angel deck. Plus, I do it when I'm around there and I see them, quite frequently. So I decided to get a deck like this because I thought it would be fun to do that. And then, of course, they've sat in a box. And when I'm going for oracle readings, I'm not really pulling this deck out. So it was just meant to be a fun thing on the side in a bowl. Like, it wasn't meant to, I don't want to be precious. I'm not worried if they get creases in them. And it actually has a nice selection of keywords. Like, there's still caution in there. Forbearance, idle hours. Like, it's actually a really interesting selection that I'm holding sideways and annoying everyone probably. They're very quaint and cute. Like, don't get me wrong, everything's linked to a forest, everything's linked to being hopeful and uplifting, but sometimes you need that. I do anyway. Secrets lurking, captive shadows deep in the woods. I mean, that doesn't sound as quaint as I thought. That fits more with uncertainty, no? The shades of grey within the fog will eventually lift. Basically what I'm saying is I need to find some form of a bowl or an open container and just throw them in there. It's a very cute box. It's lovely. It would be great for traveling for people. And don't get me wrong, I've used this as an extension of readings. You know, when I get into those really big readings and I've got tarot and I've got oracle and then I want to add some keywords, or this is really good for, like I said before, when I want to make a spread. You could, okay, uncertainty, reconnect, kindness. Then you pull your cards around them. Okay, what have I got some uncertainty about at the moment? Shuffle, shuffle, pull a tarot or an oracle from a different deck. Where do I need to reconnect more? Where can I offer more kindness, maybe to others in this instance, and pull a card? I have done that with this and it works really well, but like I want to use it more if I own it, basically. So I think I need to get some form of a bowl. And I could just use a boring old whatchamacallit bowl, but yeah, maybe I'll get a fancy one. Not now. I'm not looking to spend money. What I mean is, I'm sure if I look around my house enough, I can find or fashion something. And then the very last one is the Ostara Tarot. This was kindly gifted to me a long time back now by a friend or their parent. I can't remember which one of them technically gifted me this because it was on my wish list. They had owned it before, and the thing is, one of the reasons that I didn't gift it on when I got the urge to before is because it's heavily used. So it's actually, a couple of cards have got tiny little tears in them, so they must have really used and loved this deck because the card stock is good. And I'm not sure how it's managed to even tear. There are only little tears. Is it this card? No, that's just the one with a chip on the side, and I glued it back down. It's 4 mixed artists, and every time I think about getting rid of it, I get it out and it gives me a really good reading. So perhaps I just need to read with it more. But what I will say is that very occasionally I can't tell quickly what I'm dealing with. So I am assuming that that's the Knight of Swords based on the fact that there's no other stuff in there. It's usually, so here there's a cup, so straight away 5 of Cups, because there's a lot of elemental mixing in this deck, which I don't mind, but like visually you can see some really fiery card and then it's like the cups. But because it doesn't have like a little symbol of a cup or something somewhere, you rely on finding them, and sometimes they're really obvious and sometimes they're really hidden. Sometimes it looks very Rider-Waite-Smith, sometimes it doesn't. The mixed artwork isn't actually the problem so much, although I have my favourites. So this is Wands, so that's not too hard to tell. So is that, I'm basing this on the fact that that looks like the same artist. So I think that that's the 2 of Wands. This is the 3 of Wands, but I see frog and water and I always think cups, which is my problem. I'm a simpleton, and yeah, there we go. That's the 2 and 3 of Wands. I must have had these in some semblance of an order because the wands seem to be together. There's also lots of animals in this deck, and I freaking love animals. So, and I will say it seems somewhat diverse, which of its time especially, nice. In a kind of fantasy way. But it does. But there are just a few cards that I don't know what happened with that one. What happened, artist? What happened? This is your artwork. I'm so fussy, aren't I? Look, I'm like, stay in your lane. Not into this at all. I can't tell you why. There's just a couple of cards in here that are like, they just fall completely flat for me. Not a lover of the swords, what are they called, cults in particular, like this. Just not really feeling it, not a fan. Again, the page. Like I said, I like the diversity, at least in terms of sort of skin colour, what we can assume is sort of cultural references in places. Like I said, there's a lot of fantasy. But there's too many good cards in this deck. So this is going to be another Cups one. Aha! This is the Page of Cups, I do believe. There's a tiny little cup here, which is kind of, is impinged? No, that's not a word. What's the word I want? Basically, it's blocked anyway by the border a little bit. And that tiny little cup is the only sign I've got that it's the Page of Cups. I do like to read quick in terms of not actually doing the readings, but I like to know what I'm looking at very quickly. And this is just a tiny bit slower, but look, beautiful, very cool, simple but beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, maybe, and it's not in good enough condition really, unless someone wanted a really loved deck, because it won't show on here, but it is in pretty used condition. And you know, it saves me from buying it, because at one point someone said to me, maybe it's because, you know, it's like got the rips and things on it, and I thought, I'm not buying a copy. I had thought about it, but I'm not. And I like that it was gifted to me by who it was gifted. So I think that's a maybe still. I need to get in the Ostara mood and give it a read. I pulled 3 cards from this earlier, just before I sat down and recorded, and I was messing around with a couple of them. And it really hit. So there's hope. So let's wrap this up because this is long. One of the shops local to me has a bowl of angel cards, and I love pulling them because it's such a friendly shop. I think it's a shop vibe rather than cards. Yes, there's something about it, isn't there? It's like it creates, there's something atmospheric about it. Like, I don't like the 𝗺 Tarot. I don't hate it. I actually really like the minors, but I mean the minors from 1 to 10. I don't like the majors, and I don't like the cults. I love the minors, basically. Beautiful. If it could have all just gone in that style, I'd have been much more into it. I really don't like the people in it. And it's not a system that I am particularly au fait with or desire to study some of the layers for varying reasons. But I do own a copy because my stepmom has a copy, and I read with it in the way that she reads with hers, which is very intuitively, much to most 𝗺 purists' dismay, as they've shared with me. Whatever. Whereas her 𝗺 feels like fucking holding magic. It's utter magic. It's worn, and oh my god, I mean, she could have done with some replacement cards way before, and now she'll never get them because it's one of the earlier types, so it's slightly like a different size and slightly a different shade to like any of the others we ever see. And she hasn't really, she's got the 𝗺 books and she's read bits of them, but she doesn't know the 𝗺 in terms of that purist, all of the freaking layers that are involved. And there's nothing wrong with knowing it, but that's not how she was introduced to tarot. She was introduced to tarot as if tarot was that deck and that deck only, and you read it as an intuitive extension of all of the, you know, psychotherapeutic training that she'd done, all of the intuitive capacity that she had, and it's just this really cool thing that's like in her deck. So I have a copy, but it's not the same. And so I definitely get what you mean. Like, I very much knew straight away, I'm not going to be able to replicate these angel cards, so I can kind of do something of my own. The problem is I need people to come around and use them so they get aged and loved and, you know. Maybe I'll just start forcing my partner to pull one, you know. Hey ho. Yeah, the cardstock on the Ostara is not great, is it, Kelly? It's shiny, sticky, sharp around the edges. Frogs are the ones in Tarot of the Magical Forest, are they? I feel like it would be very clear in that deck based on how 𝗪𝗿𝗃𝗁 I recall it being, but I'm basing this on absolute memory alone because I don't own a copy of that deck. I know. But I do, from watching your channel probably mostly, and then perhaps a few other people who I'm not sure are in the tarot community actively anyway, anymore, I have a lot of memories of, like, I know the Hermit is that polar bear, right? There's definitely, is it the Emperor and the Empress? Are they, I can't remember if it's them that are the cats and then there's pigs in crowns on another point, or whether it's the pigs. There's definitely foxes in that deck. Like, I have quite a strong visual of some of the cards, but not all of them. But I suppose having the frogs already be the ones in one is that good. The thing is, if they were all frogs, it would traverse. Like, it's not a part of, oh, frogs are live in the land or the water. It's not so much that, it's just, it's such a watery visual altogether, and there's no kind of coherency even through the suit. And then I have to remind myself to look for the wands that the frog is fishing with, because that's the reminder that it's a wands card. So yeah, a little 𝗪𝗻𝗻, the polar bear, and the pigs are the Emperor and the Empress. I thought so. The animals look kind of shocked as well, which I enjoy. I'm quite fond of that deck visually. I just don't own a copy of it. And the thing is, I know that a lot of those 𝗺cie 𝗿𝗄𝗃 decks now come borderless, but the cardstock has changed, and I'm like, So I've got Tarot of the Pagan Cats. That's another one I've got a backup of. And I don't mind the borders anyway, although yours looks amazing without them. But I don't mind the borders, but also I like the old school 𝗨𝘗cie 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀 cardstock. So I like old cardstock, I do. But if anyone's curious and they're in the UK, the decks that are definitely going are the Cosmic Allies, the Wicca pack, the Birdkin messages. I think it's going the Lavish Earth crystal deck, the Deviant Moon bordered edition, the Halloween Oracle. Not bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then my question marks are the Mythic Tarot, the Pathfinder and the Ostara, which don't... Oh, and I did technically, I had that little... That wasn't really a question mark so much as get yourself a bowl. So wherever it went, I've already lost it. It's gone. Oh, okay. So the Magical Forest might still be a multi-language one. It does look amazing borderless. See, this is where I'm such a hypocrite, because really what I need is, I need like my own professional chopper person. Because there's no way I could do that to a deck now. As I say, I have trimmed one deck and it obliterated my hands, and it was when my pain levels were better. But it does look amazing without the borders, but I have to say the ones that come with those borders definitely have the superior cardstock. So that's interesting to know that it's still on that, because I think that one's still on it, and perhaps is it the 𝗳𝗏𝗄𝗏 Tarot? I think that still has the borders on, but 𝗨𝘗cie seem to be moving towards making them borderless, and I had a feel of the borderless pagan cats and was like, yeah, not sure. So that's my declutter, friends, which is over an hour and a half. So thank you to anyone who hung around with me for so freaking long, because that's quite some time. You have a modern 𝗳𝗏𝗄𝗏 that had a border but no multiple languages. I'm intrigued now. I don't remember if it had multiple languages, but I remember it having that beige border. So I don't own it. It was always one of those ones where it's like, if someone bought it for me randomly, I would probably use it, but I have never added it to my wish list. It's kind of, I like creepy. Well, I don't think it looks creepy, but I know other people think it looks creepy. I tend to like those kind of things, but I was never desperate for it, if that makes sense. Oh, Tarot's Apprentice said, I had the Druidcraft Tarot. Oh, there's a big heart in the way of your thing. I think it says cut down at a UPS store. That's cool. I wonder if they do that anywhere in the UK. Because to be fair, that's a big ass deck. But if I was going to have it cut down, I would probably have to have my Druid animal and my Druid plant deck cut down as well, so they all matched, because I'm a weirdo. Can you take the white borders off all 3 of these, please? I actually really love borders, but in those instances it would be a size thing. So that's cool. Thank you for sharing. That's pretty much it. The video that I hope to film at some point is a discussion of my practice presently in the form of slow tarot, and it's just a short discussional piece. Short for me means it's not an hour long, probably like half an hour max. Probably won't have loads going on in the video. I just thought I would discuss it because the end of last year at some point I mentioned slow tarot as a concept, and a few people asked me to expand upon what I meant. And I have had an idea to talk about it for a while, but I realised if I talked about slow tarot, given the way that social media works, that I would need to talk about what I would consider fast tarot in a balanced way as well, because I don't work in extremes. And unfortunately, it seems to be that thing where if you talk about really liking one thing, there's an automatic assumption by a fair portion of people that you are then anti the other thing, which is not the case. It's just slow tarot means something to me very specifically, in my practice, and it's very necessary for me at the moment as well. So I figured I'd talk about it. So I've made some notes, and when I can get myself into more of a YouTube rhythm, I shall do so. But yeah, hopefully this has been enjoyable. Thank you to everyone for hanging out with me. I'm glad I could keep you company, and I will see you again soon-ish, hopefully. But yeah, bye.